Jake Morrison stood at the big window of his ship, watching the stars move slowly past. The stars looked like tiny diamonds scattered on black cloth. He had been watching them for 15 years now, ever since the Great War ended and humans finally found their place among all the other alien races in the galaxy. His ship was called the New Haven, and it was one of the best ships humans had ever built. Jake was proud to be its captain. The ship had sleek lines and powerful engines, and every piece of technology on it had been earned through years of proving that humans were smart and tough. The war had been hard, but humans had shown everyone that they could think fast and adapt to anything. Jake walked through the corridors of his ship, nodding to his crew members as they worked. The ship was quiet today, running a routine patrol along the outer edges of human space. These patrols were important, but usually boring. They checked on the far colonies and made sure no pirates or raiders were causing trouble. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan approached him with a datapad in her hand. She was his second in command, a smart woman with short brown hair and serious eyes. Kate had been trying to get closer to Jake for months now, always finding reasons to spend time with him. Jake liked her, but something always held him back from taking their relationship beyond work. "Captain, all sectors are clear," Kate said, standing close enough that he could smell her perfume. "The outer colonies report no problems. Should we head back to base?" Jake took the datapad and looked at the reports. Everything seemed normal. The colonies were growing well, trade was flowing smoothly, and the peace that had lasted 15 years seemed as strong as ever. But something felt wrong to Jake. He had learned to trust his feelings during the war, and right now, those feelings were telling him to stay alert. "Let's do one more sweep of Sector 7, Jake said. "I want to check the asteroid fields near the mining station." Kate nodded, though Jake could see she thought it was unnecessary. She gave the orders to the bridge crew, and the New Haven changed course toward the distant asteroid field. The ship moved smoothly through space, its engines humming quietly. Jake went back to his quarters to review some reports. His room was simple but comfortable, with a desk, a bed, and a small window that showed the stars. On his desk sat an old photograph from the war. It showed him standing next to a tall, elegant, alien woman with silver blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with what looked like starlight. The woman in the photo was Lyra, a Zephyrian warrior who had fought alongside humans during the final years of the war. The Zephyrians were one of the most mysterious alien races anyone had ever met. They were tall and graceful, with abilities that seemed almost magical. Lyra had been different from other aliens Jake had worked with. She understood humans in a way that surprised everyone. Jake and Lyra had made a great team during the war. His tactical thinking combined with her strange abilities had won many battles that should have been impossible to win, but they had been more than just partners in war. There had been something deeper between them, something that crossed the boundaries between species. When the war ended, Lyra had disappeared without saying goodbye. One day she was there, and the next day she was gone. Jake had tried to find her, but the Zephyrians had closed their borders and refused to answer questions about her. For 15 years, Jake had wondered what happened to her, and why she had left without a word. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Jake grabbed his jacket and ran to the bridge. Kate was already there, looking at the main screen with a worried expression. "Captain, we have an unregistered ship approaching," Kate reported. "It's not responding to our standard identification requests." Jake looked at the screen and felt his heart skip a beat. The ship was sleek and beautiful, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. It was definitely not human design, and Jake recognized the style immediately. It was a Zephyrian ship. "Sir, they're sending a message," the communications officer said. "It's coming through on a private channel, directed specifically at you." Jake's hands felt cold as he walked to the communications station. "Put it through," the voice that came through the speakers made Jake's world stop. It was soft and musical, with the slight accent that all Zephyrians had when speaking human languages. But more than that, it was a voice he had heard in his dreams for 15 years. "Captain Morrison, this is Lyra. I request permission to come aboard. I need to speak with you urgently." The bridge went completely silent. Everyone knew the stories about Captain Morrison and the mysterious alien woman who had fought beside him during the war. Kate's face went pale, and she stared at Jake with wide eyes. Jake's mind raced. After all these years, Lyra had found him. But why now? And why did her voice sound so desperate, so different from the calm warrior he remembered? "Sir," Kate asked, quietly, "what are your orders?" Jake looked at the Zephyrian ship on the screen. It was smaller than the New Haven, clearly built for speed rather than fighting. Whatever Lyra wanted, she had come alone. That was either very brave or very dangerous. "Grant permission for docking," Jake said, "but keep our shields up and weapons ready. I want a full security team at the docking bay." Kate nodded and gave the orders, though Jake could see the hurt in her eyes. The crew moved quickly to prepare for their unexpected visitor. Jake watched the Zephyrian ship move gracefully toward their docking bay and wondered what this meeting would bring. After 15 years of wondering, he was finally going to see Lyra again. But the universe had taught him that when the past returned unexpectedly, it usually brought trouble with it. Jake stood in the docking bay with his security team, trying to keep his face calm while his heart raced. The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss, and Lyra stepped through like she was walking on air instead of metal deck plates. She looked exactly as Jake remembered, yet somehow different. Her silver blue skin still shifted and flowed like liquid mercury, and her large dark eyes still held that strange starlight that had fascinated him during the war. She was tall and graceful, moving with the fluid motion that all Zephyrians had. But there was something new in her posture, a tension that had not been there before. Lyra wore a simple traveling robe that shimmered with colors Jake could not name. Her long hair floated around her shoulders as if she was underwater. When she saw Jake, her expression softened for just a moment, and he saw a flash of the woman he had known during the war. "Jake," she said, and her voice carried emotions that made his chest tight. "You look well." "Lyra," Jake replied, not trusting himself to say more. Behind him, he could feel Kate and the security team watching every movement. The tension in the docking bay was thick enough to cut with a knife. "I know this is unexpected," Lyra continued, stepping closer. "But I had to find you. I have been searching the galaxy for 3 years, following rumors and old contacts. The universe is in great danger, and I need your help." Kate stepped forward, her hand resting on her weapon. "Captain, perhaps we should move this conversation to a secure briefing room." Lyra's eyes shifted to Kate, and Jake saw her take in every detail of the human woman. There was intelligence in that look, and something else that might have been understanding. "Your lieutenant is wise," Lyra said. "What I have to tell you should not be overheard by too many ears." Jake nodded. Security team dismissed. "Lieutenant Sullivan, please escort our guest to briefing room 3. I'll be there in 5 minutes." As the security team left, Jake caught Kate's arm gently. "I know this is strange," he said quietly, "but I need you to trust me." Kate's jaw was tight, but she nodded. "Of course, Captain, but I'm staying in the briefing." Jake watched Kate lead Lyra away, then took a moment to collect himself. Seeing Lyra again brought back memories he had tried to bury. The war, the battles they had fought together, the quiet moments between conflicts when they had talked about their different worlds and found surprising connections. When Jake entered the briefing room, Lyra was standing by the window, looking out at the stars. Kate sat at the conference table, her back straight and her expression professional. Jake took his seat at the head of the table. "All right, Lyra," Jake said. "You found me. Now tell me why." Lyra turned from the window, and Jake saw fear in her eyes, real, deep fear that made his stomach clench. During the war, he had seen Lyra face impossible odds without flinching. If something scared her this much, it had to be terrible. "There is an ancient enemy awakening," Lyra began. "My people call them the Devourers. They have slept in the dark spaces between galaxies for millions of years, but something has stirred them from their rest." Kate leaned forward. "What kind of enemy? Pirates? Another aggressive species?" Lyra shook her head, and her skin flickered with darker colors. "No, Lieutenant. These are not mere conquerors. The Devourers do not simply destroy worlds or kill populations. They consume the very essence of life itself. When they are finished with a planet, nothing remains but a dead shell, not just dead, but empty in a way that makes reality itself sick." Jake felt cold. "How do you know about this?" "Because they attacked a Zephyrian outpost 3 months ago," Lyra said. "A research station on the edge of our space, studying the void between galaxies. One day it was there, full of life and learning. The next day, it existed, but was hollow. The buildings stood, the equipment worked, but there was no trace that anyone had ever lived there. Worse, the space around the station felt wrong, like a wound in the fabric of existence." Kate's professional mask slipped. "That's impossible. I wish it were," Lyra said. "My people's council believes they can handle this threat alone. They remember their ancient power and think it will be enough. But I have studied the old records, the stories from the last time the Devourers woke. Every species that tried to fight them alone was consumed. Only unity between different races offers any hope." Jake studied Lyra's face. "And you think humans can help?" "I know humans can help," Lyra said, and for the first time since she had arrived, she smiled. "I remember what your people accomplished during the war. When everyone said a battle was impossible to win, humans found a way. When the odds were hopeless, human creativity and stubbornness turned defeat into victory." "But why come to me personally?" Jake asked. "Why not go through official channels? Contact our government directly." Lyra's expression became sad. "Because I know you, Jake Morrison. I know your mind and how you think. I know that when you see a problem, you do not stop until you solve it. And because ... She paused, looking down at her hands. "Because I owed you an explanation for why I left." The briefing room went very quiet. Kate's eyes moved between Jake and Lyra, and Jake could see her putting pieces together. Finally, Kate cleared her throat. "I'll go check on the patrol schedule," she said, standing up. "Captain, call me when you need me." After Kate left, Jake and Lyra sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Jake spoke. "You vanished overnight. One day we were planning our next mission together. The next day you were gone. No message, no goodbye, nothing. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" Lyra's skin shifted to deeper blue tones. Colors Jake remembered meant sadness among her people. The war was ending. My people's council ordered all Zephyrians to return home immediately. They said we had spent too much time among other species and needed to remember our true nature. You could have sent a message. One word would have been enough. "I tried," Lyra said, and her voice was barely a whisper. "I sent dozens of messages, but the council intercepted them all. They said contact with humans would pollute our racial purity. They blocked all communication between our peoples." Jake felt anger and relief at the same time. Anger at the Zephyrian Council, relief that Lyra had not simply abandoned him. So why come back now? Why risk your people's anger? Lyra stood and walked to the window again, because the prophecies speak of a joining between species that could defeat the Devourers. Because I have seen what these creatures can do, and I would rather be cast out by my own people than watch the galaxy die. And because ... she turned to face him. Because I never stopped thinking about you, Jake Morrison. Not for a single day in 15 years. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He had dreamed of hearing something like this from Lyra, but now that the moment was here, it felt overwhelming. Too many emotions, too many complications. Lyra, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. The communications system crackled to life with Kate's voice. Captain, to the bridge immediately. We're receiving distress calls from the mining station in Sector 7. They report that 3 ships just vanished from their scanners, without any explanation. Jake and Lyra looked at each other, and Jake saw his own terrible understanding reflected in her starlit eyes. It's starting, Lyra whispered. Jake ran to the bridge with Lyra close behind him. The crew was already at battle stations, their faces tense as they worked at their controls. Kate stood at the command center, her fingers dancing over the tactical display. Report, Jake ordered. As he took his captain's chair, 3 mining ships disappeared from sensors exactly 17 minutes ago, Kate said. The mining station reports they were there 1 second, gone the next. No distress calls, no explosion signatures, nothing. Just empty space where they used to be. Jake looked at the main screen, which showed the sector map with red markers where the ships had vanished. Any debris? That's the strange part, sir, the sensor operator said. We're detecting some kind of energy residue where the ships were, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The computer can't even classify what it is. Lyra moved closer to the screen, her skin shifting to pale silver as she studied the display. Jake, we need to investigate immediately. If this is what I think it is, every moment we delay makes things worse. Kate turned to face Jake, and he could see the conflict in her eyes. She did not trust Lyra, but she also knew Jake well enough to see that he was taking this threat seriously. Captain, shouldn't we call for backup first? Kate asked. If these ships were destroyed by some unknown weapon, we could be flying into a trap. This is not a trap, Lyra said, her voice urgent. The Devourers do not set traps. They simply consume and move on. But if we can reach the site quickly, we might learn something that could help us understand how to fight them. Jake made his decision. Set course for the mining site, maximum speed. Send a message to Fleet Command about the missing ships, but tell them we're investigating first. Kate, I want our best people on this. Get Sam Rodriguez from engineering and Dr. Lisa Park from the science lab. As the New Haven turned toward the mining site, Jake watched Lyra carefully. She stood perfectly still, but her skin kept changing. Colors and patterns he had never seen before. During the war, he had learned to read some of her people's color changes. Light blue meant calm, dark blue meant sadness, silver meant concentration, but these colors were new, swirling and shifting in ways that made him uneasy. Lyra, what are you not telling me? Jake asked quietly. She looked at him, and he saw something in her eyes that might have been guilt. There are things about my people that we have never shared with other species. Abilities that we kept secret even during the war. Before Jake could ask more questions, Sam Rodriguez and Dr. Lisa Park arrived on the bridge. Sam was a short, stocky man with clever hands and a mind that could solve any mechanical problem. Lisa was tall and thin, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a brain that could process information faster than most computers. Captain, what's the situation? Sam asked. Jake quickly explained about the missing ships and Lyra's warnings about the Devourers. Both Sam and Lisa listened carefully, asking technical questions about the energy readings and the nature of the threat. So you're saying these things don't just destroy ships, they make them disappear completely? Lisa asked. Worse than that, Lyra replied. They consume the very idea that the ships ever existed. When they are finished, reality itself forgets. Sam scratched his head. That sounds like science fiction, no offense. I wish it were, Lyra said. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the mining site. The main screen showed the mining station, a large metal structure surrounded by dozens of automated mining platforms working on nearby asteroids. But something was wrong with the picture. Captain, the sensor operator called out. I'm reading some very strange energy patterns near the station. It's like space itself is bent somehow. Jake studied the readings, but they made no sense. To him, the numbers kept changing, and some of them seemed to be negative values that should have been impossible. Take us closer, Jake ordered, but keep our shields up and weapons ready. As they approached, Jake could see that something was definitely wrong. The space around where the mining ships had vanished looked different somehow. It was still black, like the rest of space, but it seemed darker, empty in a way that hurt to look at. Dr. Park, what are your instruments telling you? Jake asked. Lisa was bent over her science station, her face pale. Captain, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. The area where the ships disappeared is reading is completely empty, but not just of matter. It's empty of quantum fields, of background radiation, of everything that makes space what it is. Lyra moved to the science station and looked at the readings. Her skin went completely white, and Jake had never seen that color on a Zephyrian before. We need to leave, Lyra said, her voice tight with fear. Right now. What? Why? Kate demanded. Because they're still here, Lyra whispered. The lights on the bridge flickered, and every alarm on the ship started ringing at once. The main screen showed something that made Jake's mind struggle to understand what he was seeing. Ships were appearing in the space around them, but they were not ships in any normal sense. They looked like holes cut out of reality, dark shapes that seemed to exist in the spaces between things. They did not reflect light or cast shadows. Instead, they seemed to absorb everything around them. Shields failing, someone called out. Whatever they're doing, our defense systems can't handle it. Jake watched in horror as one of the mining platforms near the station simply stopped existing. It did not explode or break apart. One moment, it was there. The next moment it was not, and Jake found himself struggling to remember what had been in that empty space just seconds before. Lyra, what do we do? Jake asked. Lyra closed her eyes and her skin began to glow with soft silver light. I need to show you something, but it will reveal secrets my people have kept for thousands of years. Do it, Jake said without hesitation. Lyra raised her hands, and suddenly, Jake could see things differently. The dark ships were still there, but now he could also see streams of energy connecting them, like a web of power that reached into dimensions he could not name. More importantly, he could see weak points in that web, places where a clever attack might disrupt their strange abilities. Sam, can you reconfigure our weapons to target these specific coordinates? Jake asked, pointing to the weak points he could now see. Sam looked at his instruments, then at Jake, with confusion. Captain, there's nothing at those coordinates, just empty space. Trust me, Jake said. Fire at exactly those points, full power. The New Haven's weapons fired into what looked like empty space, but Jake watched through Lyra's enhanced vision, as the energy beams struck the weak points in the Devourer web. The dark ships flickered, and for a moment, Jake thought they might disappear. Instead, they turned toward the New Haven with something that felt like hunger. They know we can see them now, Lyra said, her voice strained from maintaining her abilities. Jake, we have to run. I can hold this vision for a few more minutes, but then I'll collapse. All power to engines, Jake ordered. Get us out of here. Maximum speed. The New Haven turned away from the dark ships and jumped to faster-than-light travel. As they escaped, Jake saw Lyra collapse into Kate's arms, her skin fading back to normal blue. Are you all right? Kate asked, and Jake was surprised to hear genuine concern in her voice. I will be, Lyra whispered, but now they know we can fight them. They will come for us directly. Jake looked at the star chart, calculating their position. They were safe for now, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers were real, they were dangerous, and somehow he and Lyra were the key to fighting them. Kate, send a priority. Message to Fleet Command, Jake said. Tell them we need to meet with the Admiral immediately, and tell them to prepare for something they've never seen before. The Fleet Command Center was buzzing with activity when Jake and Lyra arrived. Admiral Chris Bennett stood at the center of it all, a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Around him, officers studied reports and argued over tactical displays. Jake had known Bennett for 10 years, and he could see the stress in the older man's face. 3 more colonies had gone silent during their journey to headquarters, and reconnaissance ships reported the same impossible phenomenon each time. Places that existed but felt empty, space that seemed wounded. "Captain Morrison," Bennett said as they approached, "I've read your report, and I'll be honest, it sounds impossible, but we've lost contact with 7 outer colonies in the past 2 days, and every scouting ship we send comes back with the same story." Lyra stood beside Jake, her posture straight, despite her exhaustion from the encounter with the Devourers. She had been quiet during the journey, and Jake could see that. Using her abilities had cost her more than she wanted to admit. "Admiral," Jake said, "this is Lyra of the Zephyrian people. She has information about the threat we're facing." Bennett studied Lyra carefully. Jake knew the Admiral had fought in the contact wars and had mixed feelings about aliens, but Bennett was also practical enough to listen when the stakes were this high. "Ms. Lyra," Bennett said formally, "your people have been very quiet since the war ended. Why come forward now?" "Because my people's pride may doom us all," Lyra replied. "The Zephyrian Council believes they can face this threat alone, using the old powers our race has hidden for millennia. They are wrong. The Devourers have faced our kind before and learned how to consume our abilities." Dr. Lisa Park approached the group, carrying a data pad filled with sensor readings. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from the missing ships. Whatever is causing these disappearances operates on principles that are completely outside our understanding of physics." "Show me," Bennett said. Lisa activated a holographic display that showed the area where the mining ships had vanished. The space looked normal, but the readings told a different story. "Look at these quantum field measurements. The background radiation that exists everywhere in the universe is simply gone in these areas. It's like someone erased parts of reality." "Sam," Rodriguez joined them, wiping his hands on a maintenance rag. "Admiral, I've been working on ways to modify our weapons based on what Captain Morrison saw during the encounter. The problem is, we're trying to fight an enemy that doesn't seem to exist in normal space." Bennett looked frustrated. "So what you're telling me is that we're facing an enemy we can't see, can't understand, and can't fight with conventional weapons?" "Not exactly," Lyra said quietly. "There is a way to fight them, but it requires a level of cooperation between our species that has never been attempted before." Jake felt everyone's attention focus on Lyra. He could see Kate watching from across the room, her expression unreadable. "During our encounter," Lyra continued, "I shared my perception with Captain Morrison. For a brief time, he could see the Devourers as my people see them. This allowed your weapons to target their weak points. But you collapsed after just a few minutes," Jake pointed out. "If that's our only way to fight them, we need something more sustainable." Lyra's skin shifted to deeper blue colors. "There is something more sustainable, but it comes with a price. The ancient texts of my people speak of a bonding ritual between different species. It would allow me to share my abilities permanently without burning out my life force." The room went very quiet. Bennett frowned. "What kind of bonding ritual?" "It would link my life force with another person's," Lyra explained. "We would share abilities, perceptions, even some thoughts and emotions. If one of us dies, both die. It is permanent and irreversible." Jake felt his heart racing. During the war, he and Lyra had been close, but this was something far beyond that. It would mean giving up his individual human life to become something new, something between human and Zephyrian. "That's quite a sacrifice to ask," Bennett said carefully. It's not a sacrifice if it saves the galaxy, Jake replied, surprising himself with how quickly the words came. Kate stepped forward from where she had been listening. Captain, you can't be serious. You're talking about permanently binding yourself to an alien. What if something goes wrong? What if this ritual changes you in ways we don't understand? Jake looked at Kate and saw the pain in her eyes. She had been hoping for a relationship with him, and now he was considering something that would make that impossible forever. Kate, Jake said gently, I understand your concerns, but look at the alternative. We've already lost 7 colonies. If we can't find a way to fight these things, we'll lose everything. Admiral Bennett studied the tactical displays around them. Even if this bonding ritual works, it would only help one ship, one small team. We need a solution that can work across the entire fleet. Lyra nodded. The bonding would be the beginning, not the end. Once the connection is established, I could teach other Zephyrians how to work with humans without burning out. We could create teams of bonded pairs, each capable of seeing and fighting the Devourers. But first, we need to prove it works, Sam said. And we need to test it against a real threat. As if summoned by his words, alarms began ringing throughout the command center. A communications officer called out over the noise. Admiral, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Centauri sector. Multiple colonies report that strange ships have appeared in their systems. The descriptions match what Captain Morrison encountered. Bennett's face went grim. How long until they reach the colonies? At current speed, maybe 6 hours for the closest one. Jake felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. 6 hours to decide whether to undergo an alien ritual that would change him forever, then face an enemy that could erase ships from existence. Lyra, he said, how long does this bonding ritual take? If we begin immediately, it could be complete. In 4 hours, she replied. But Jake, you need to understand what you're agreeing to. Once we're bonded, you'll be able to see reality the way Zephyrians do. You'll perceive dimensions and possibilities that human minds weren't designed to handle. It might be overwhelming. Kate grabbed Jake's arm. Captain, please think about this. There has to be another way. Jake looked around the command center at all the people, depending on his decision. He thought about the colonies full of families, the crews of ships that might face the Devourers, the entire human race that could be consumed if they couldn't find a way to fight back. Admiral, Jake said, I request permission to undergo the bonding ritual with Lyra. If it works, we'll have a weapon against the Devourers. If it doesn't work, ... double quotes, he shrugged. At least we'll have tried something. Bennett was quiet for a long moment. Captain, I can't order you to do this. It has to be your choice. It is my choice, Jake said firmly. Kate's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded slowly. If you're determined to do this, then I want to help. Whatever support you need, you'll have it. Jake felt a surge of gratitude toward Kate. Even though this decision meant the end of any possibility between them, she was still willing to support him. Thank you, Kate. That means more than you know. Lyra moved closer to Jake. Are you certain? Once we begin, there is no going back. Jake looked into her starlit eyes and thought about all the years he had wondered what happened to her, all the dreams he had pushed aside, all the possibilities he had never explored. I'm certain, he said. Let's save the galaxy. The bonding ritual took place in a quiet room deep inside the fleet command station. Jake lay on a simple bed, while Lyra knelt beside him, her hands glowing with soft silver light. Kate and Dr. Lisa Park monitored his vital signs from nearby equipment, while Sam Rodriguez worked on modifying weapons based on the new targeting data they hoped to gain. Jake felt strange currents of energy flowing through his body as Lyra spoke words in her ancient language. The words seemed to resonate in dimensions he could not see, and gradually he began to perceive things differently. Colors became richer, sounds gained new layers of meaning, and the very air around him seemed alive with invisible patterns. The Connection is forming, Lyra whispered, her voice coming from both outside and inside his head. Can you feel it? Jake nodded, not trusting his voice. He could feel Lyra's thoughts touching his mind, sharing memories and emotions that belonged to both of them. Her loneliness during the 15 years of separation, her fear of the approaching devours, her determination to save both their peoples. But more than that, he could feel her abilities becoming part of him. Suddenly he could see the quantum streams that connected all things, the probability waves that determined what was real and what was possible. It was overwhelming, like trying to see with 1,000 eyes at once. Focus on my voice, Lyra said, her mental presence helping to guide him. Don't try to see everything at once. Learn to filter what you need. Slowly, Jake learned to control his new perceptions. He could still see the normal world, but now he could also see the hidden layers beneath it. Energy flows, dimensional boundaries, the delicate structures that held reality together. It's working, Dr. Park called out. His brain activity is off the charts, but he's stable. How do you feel? Kate asked, and Jake could hear the worry in her voice. Different, Jake replied, opening his eyes. But still me. I can see things I never imagined, but I'm still human. Lyra smiled, and Jake realized he could feel her emotions as clearly as his own. Relief, joy, and something deeper that made his chest warm. The bonding is complete, she said. Now we need to test it in battle. Admiral Bennett's voice came through the communication system. Captain Morrison, report to the bridge immediately. The Devourers have reached the Centauri colonies. Jake and Lyra hurried to the bridge of the New Haven, which had been prepared for immediate departure. Kate took her position as second in command, while Sam and Lisa ran final checks on their modified weapons and sensors. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, racing toward the Centauri system. During the journey, Jake practiced using his new abilities. He could see the ship's energy systems as streams of light, could perceive the stress patterns in the hull, could even sense the emotions of his crew members as colored auras around them. Remember, Lyra said as they approached the battle zone, the Devourers exist partially outside normal space. You have to see them as they truly are, before our weapons can affect them. The New Haven dropped out of faster-than-light travel to find chaos. The space around Centauri Prime was filled with human ships firing uselessly at empty space, while the dark forms of Devourer vessels moved like shadows between dimensions. Jake watched in horror as a human destroyer simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only a wound in space that hurt to look at. All ships, this is Captain Morrison, Jake broadcast on the fleet frequency. Stop firing randomly and await my targeting. Coordinates. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Hayes, came a reply from the fleet commander. We can't see the enemy. Our sensors show nothing. I can see them, Jake said, his enhanced vision revealing the web of dark energy that connected the Devourer ships. Trust me, and fire where I tell you. Jake began calling out targeting coordinates, his new perceptions allowing him to see the weak points in the Devourer formation. The human fleet focused their fire on what looked like empty space, but Jake watched as their weapons struck the hidden vessels. The Devourers flickered and wavered, their hold on normal space weakening, but they adapted quickly, shifting their energy patterns to avoid the concentrated fire. They're learning, Lyra warned. We need to do something they can't expect. Jake studied the battle, his mind working on multiple levels at once. His human tactical training combined with his new Zephyrian perceptions to show him possibilities no one else could see. Sam, can you overload our main weapon array? Jake asked. Sure, but it'll burn out the entire system, Sam replied. Do it. And Kate, I need you to take us directly into the center of their formation. Kate stared at him. Captain, that's suicide. No, Jake said, seeing the probability streams flowing around them. It's the one thing they won't expect. Humans doing something impossible. The New Haven charged into the heart of the Devourer formation, while Jake guided their overloaded weapons to target the central control nexus he could see with his enhanced vision. The dark ships tried to consume the New Haven, like they had consumed the other vessels, but Jake's new abilities allowed him to perceive their attack and counter it. "Now, Sam," Jake shouted. The New Haven's weapons fired with 10 times their normal power, the energy beams striking the invisible nexus at the center of the Devourer web. Jake watched as reality twisted around the impact point, and suddenly the dark ships became visible to everyone. They were horrible to see, like living holes in space, but now they could be fought. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had, and the Devourers began to retreat back into the void between dimensions. "We did it," Kate breathed, watching the enemy ships disappear. "This time," Lyra corrected. "But they'll be back, and they'll bring more ships. We need to prepare the entire galaxy for what's coming." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The bonding had worked, proving that cooperation between species could create something greater than either could achieve alone. But this was just the beginning. Over the following months, Jake and Lyra worked to train other bonded pairs, humans and Zephyrians working together to defend the galaxy. Kate received her own command, leading the development of new tactics based on what they had learned. Sam designed new weapons that could target enemies existing between dimensions. The war against the Devourers would be long and difficult, but humanity had proven once again that their greatest strength was their refusal to accept defeat. Combined with the ancient wisdom and abilities of the Zephyrians, they had found a way to fight an impossible enemy. Jake stood on the bridge of his ship, now redesigned to blend human and Zephyrian technologies. Lyra was beside him, their connection allowing them to share thoughts and perceptions across any distance. They were preparing for their next mission, exploring the void between galaxies to ensure the Devourers remained contained. "Do you ever regret the choice you made?" Lyra asked, though she already knew the answer through their bond. Jake smiled, looking out at the stars that seemed brighter now through his enhanced vision. "Never. After all these years of wondering what happened to you, we found each other again. And this time, nothing in the universe is going to separate us." The New Haven turned toward the dark space beyond the galaxy, carrying its bonded crew into the unknown. Behind them, the galaxy remained safe, protected by the unlikely alliance between human determination and alien wisdom. The Devourers might return someday, but they would find a galaxy ready for them, defended by beings who had learned that unity was stronger than any weapon.